I can hear everybody.
I bet they can hear me now. I hit the wrong button. There's so many buttons and dials and knobs and twisties and yeah. This is a full control room, just a little bit digital, and I can see myself on the voice chat, so I can see that I'm going out now. So as I was saying, 2 weeks ago we had so many problems, technical issues. Most of them on my side, although Kaedrich was having some problems with Skype as well. I got those all fixed and went through and tested everything later that night. Everything worked fine. Got a hold of the people who make the software that I'm using to stream with, and yeah, wonders of modern technology.
Sacrifices were made to the proper gods, and they have been accepted.
Yes,
and we will be successful in our endeavors on this evening.
Was that a blood sacrifice? I hesitate to ask.
We do need sacrifices, right?
Well, actually, sometimes we do. I know that I have sacrificed my dignity many times on this show. So we'll see how it goes tonight. But because we had such a hard time, I'm sorry, I was reading the chat, and two of the chatters are hugging each other. Because we had such a bad time getting things going last week, instead of making everybody wait a whole month to get the show, what we decided to do was do one in between, and that's tonight. So
we're taking care of you.
Huh?
We're taking care of you, those guys out there.
We're taking care of everybody out there. Absolutely, because I think it's important to get different points of view, different kinds of knowledge, all that stuff out there for people who are looking for it. And I have to say that you have one of the more interesting spiritual paths that I've heard. I know that when I first met you, I think you were straight heathen, not?
I don't think I've ever been straight heathen for anything, but the way I treat heathenry, the Norse tradition, is a little bit of background about me. As I grew up in a basement full of books, it was a library that would make any book nerd envious, and I was in heaven through most of my childhood, reading as many books as I could. And my parents had these great books on metaphysics and witchcraft, and I came across one called The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. And he discussed so many different traditions and so many different practices. He even talked about the rites of Odin and how these people worked. And I realized that all of these different traditions and magical practices were actually saying the same thing. They were just using different vernacular, different terminology, different practices, but
Whoop, you're cutting out now.
Well, I'm here, though.
There you go.
And so what I chose to do at that time, I also discovered runes at that point. That would be the Ralph Bloom set, which everyone knows and loves. Hey, I'm not saying anything bad. There's a lot of people who have gained access to the power of the runes and understanding of Norse mysticism and everything going on. So there's still some good that comes out of Ralph Bloom's work. But that's what got me started in runes.
Well, now your mic's gone dead again. Well, apparently we're having some technical difficulties. We can see him fine, but I can't hear him.
Oh.
Yeah, you're fading in and out. Well, and it's interesting because the mic actually worked fine, and all of a sudden it's cutting in and out. I'm not sure why. It reminds me of a connection, a loose connection or something. But
that's very strange.
And now you're coming in fine.
Maybe I have a bad cable. Oh boy. Well, we'll try to continue with this. But what I've chosen for heathenry is my control group. That is, I spent many years delving as deep into the lore, the literature, the archaeology, the studies of it as I could. I'm even translating Old Norse poetry. I need to understand the depths of the runic literature and the Norse literature. and the runes that they describe in it, and I compare that with other traditions, what other traditions are saying, and I test and I validate and I test and I validate, because I'm not satisfied.
Well, you're fading in and out again. All right, so we can see you talking, but we can't hear you. And you know, Rosa, I don't think it's your bandwidth. I think it's I'm not sure what it is. It does fade in and out, but if it were bandwidth, I think we would lose the video before we would lose the audio. And video is great. I'm actually really pleased with the video. As soon as we get Kaedrich back, he'll I'm sure.
Well,
there we go. Yeah, I can hear you now.
yeah, even on my end, all of the things that I'm reading says that the audio is great on my side. I'm not cutting in and out here.
It may it's very possible that something's going on with all of the stuff I've got running. We're running close to again, we're running close to 100% CPU, and I don't know why, because I don't have that much stuff going. So that could absolutely be that I'm having problems getting in with Skype, but usually it's the video that conks out first, and that's not happening this time. So,
yeah, right. I don't know. I guess apparently all of our sacrifices weren't accepted.
Apparently, our sacrifices were made in vain. All right, so let's see. Let's see if we can get some more information before the mic cuts out again. So you're saying that you use Bloom and you test everything.
Yes. Everything that you have, that I give out to people, my book, Runes for Transformation, putting together some videos now to explain Galdra and what I'm doing with the runes, the rune music I'm doing. I have gatherings of folks come over here. We have sometimes little ones, sometimes big ones, because I'm always testing. Of course, I'm my own first guinea pig, and I have a few close friends, family, that they end up getting the brunt end sometimes of my, hey, let's try this out, see what goes on. But yeah, everything that you are exposed to as the public, with the books, with the music that we're going to be talking about, is stuff that's been tested, validated. It's not as simple as, hey, let's raise a horn to Thor and Odin and go to bloat and make everything nice. It's more about your own transformation, your own spiritual ascension. I don't know, I'm going to be talking and blabbering here for a minute, but let's talk about operant magic versus transcendent magic. Where operant magic is, I'm going to cast the runes because I want a specific job, I want a specific lover, I want an ideal life in a specific way. And so you cast the runes with a specific visualization, a specific intent.
Well, we got the specific event, and you faded out again.
Yeah, you have a specific
You know, at times like this, you can only laugh, because otherwise I'd cry. You know, and it's really sad that, because, you know, I always find listening to you fascinating, because you have such a different way of looking at things. I don't know what's going on with this, because video is fantastic. There's no stuttering anymore. It works great.
Well, how is this? Is this?
I can hear you now.
What's that?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, what's wrong with this?
Well, now you just faded out again. Yeah, actually, this isn't the thing it was doing last time. The thing it was doing last time was just.
How are we sounding now?
A little tinny, but we can hear you.
Okay, at least you can hear me. Let me know if it cuts out again. I'll tinker something else. I've got 3 different options for audio inputs now.
Okay.
So what we were saying about operant magic, you're doing magic for specific intent, ideal lover, ideal job, that new car. What have a specific visualization, specific intent. But the work that we're going to do,
You know that Chevy Chase routine where he's talking on the phone and it sounds like he's cutting out? That's exactly what you sound like at the moment.
Oh man. Well, yeah, everything on my end is showing terrific.
You know what? Let me do this. Hold on. Let me give you another. I've got another option here. Let me see if I can send you a link for the voice chat, and that will also allow everybody to hear you. Hold on 1 second while I send that to you, and that will tell us. There.
Well, I'm checking into the Discord. We'll see how this works.
Okay.
Okay. Well, now I'm hearing all sorts of directions. Okay. But can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Terrific. Okay, so after we covered what operant magic was, we go to transcendent magic, which is what I'm trying to describe mostly. This is where you raise and elevate the nature of your spiritual being, the nature of your soul, so that you are attracting to you the right situations and the right people that are in alignment with your higher self. We'll get into this in a second. Does it risk substantiation of the higher self in the Norse lore before anyone starts saying that's fluffy bunny? It's really not. It's the Norse lore dealing with the higher self. But when you become aligned, your actions, your intentions, your behaviors, your energy is aligned with the higher self, then you no longer need to do specific operant workings because you're automatically drawing to the right opportunities and the right people, the right situations to you. And this is how I'm working with runes through music now, is to achieve higher states of being through Galdra.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm watching what's going on here, and it's interesting. We're getting all the audio through Skype, none of it through the through Discord. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. That's weird. All right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and go into the first song we were going to do, and it may give us some time to work on the audio problems. Okay. So let me go ahead and set this all up. Oh, and we're going to start this. All right, so hopefully at this point people are saying is okay. So, well, we froze again. What is going on? I'm not running a high CPU at this point. I saw it come up and then freeze again.
Weird. Very
Okay,
strange.
and yeah, now it's going back and forth as far as whether it's streaming or not. But I guess we'll go with this. This is kind of weird. All right, so hopefully, I'm hearing an echo. Hopefully, what will happen is it will continue streaming, and we'll get through the rest of the show. All right, so not sure where the echo's coming from, but I guess I'll have to ignore it. So let's do this. Let's go back and restart the music and see if we can't do this correctly again. All right, let me go ahead and set all this stuff up for. Yeah, I'm not sure where the echo's coming from, but there is one. So let's go to the music and see if I hear an echo there. Okay, so whoop, hit the wrong button. There we go. So hopefully Kaedrich can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, and we can hear you through Discord.
Excellent.
You know, I'm
And
wondering
it sounds like the echo has disappeared.
Well, I can still hear it. I'm wondering if it's your system that I can hear myself on. That might be why we hear an echo. All right, so let's do this. Why don't you talk about Galdra and what it is? And first of all, I want to point out you did all the music and all the instruments and everything on that song, correct?
That is correct. That's an original composition by me. Played all the music. I sang the vocals and mixed it, mastered it. I did everything on that one. I'm multi-talented.
Yes, you are. So, you are the only person we hear in that entire song.
Correct.
Okay. So, can you talk a little bit about what Galdra is and where it comes from and all of that?
Yes. Galdra is a lost art form with runes, but it's actually being revived, finally. We're doing a good job of reviving it. What we can glean from the Norse literature is that runes were sung. We have ample archaeological evidence that show us exactly how runes were carved. And we know that the runes were the written language for the Proto-Germanic people. They used runes to write everything down from what was in a shipping container to who was inheriting lands after someone died. But we also have an ample archaeological record of runes that could only have been carved with magical intent. We find special magic words like Laukaz Alu written on jewelry and other sorts of artifacts. And we know that Laukaz Alu is a healing statement, basically. And so we know exactly how the runes were carved, but we don't know really much of what happens after that. However, if we look into the literature written by the Norse people themselves, we know that the Norse were a very oral society. They loved their poetry, they loved to tell stories and loved to tell tales. What we find in the literature is that while the runes were being inscribed, that the energies of these runes were sung to life. And it's this singing, this magic act of creating a vibratory resonance to the runes was called Galdr. And so that became known as a form of rune magic where runes were sung to life, is literally Galdr. And we find this in phrases such as in the Havamal, where it says, Dan kanet Galdret Gala, which literally means, then I know the rune song to sing. Galdr being rune song, and at Gala is Norse for to sing. And another hint that comes from the lore is that it's said that if you knew the words of a song, then you automatically knew the melody. This might be a little subtle hint that the Norse language was a bit more tonal than we have now. We have a fairly monotone language, but maybe the Proto-Norse language was more sing-songy sound than what we have today. And by putting together the words, they would also put together a melody that also tells us that these poems were also songs. Now, what the exact melodies were, the exact process for Galdr is absolutely lost to us throughout the years. But we have bands like Hagalaz Rune Dance, Wodenha's Son, and of course the famous Vardruna today that are all reviving Galdr in their own understanding of it. And I've taken this maybe a little bit of a step further. I've been experimenting with runes and music for years and trying to come up with a formula and a process to make this work. And a few years back, I actually stumbled on it, a couple years back, stumbled on the actual final missing piece. And what it was the vowels. In the Elder Futhark, the oldest of the Futharks, the Elder Futhark is like the original runic alphabet. There are 7 vowel runes. And if we place those vowel runes on a musical scale that we're familiar with, say from C to B, that tells us exactly what notes correlate to what values, to what letters, what runes on the vowels. And we could take words like Laukaz Alu, which has 3 vowels, A, U, and A, and we can write a song based off of what we know with the notes and the old Galdra. So I've taken phrases out of Old Norse poetry and written music about them. I've taken inscriptions found on many different rune stones and jewelry, the weapons, and all the sort of things that runes would be carved on, and have begun writing songs on those, songs that we can understand today in our 21st century understanding of music and what is relevant to us.
Okay, so if I understand what you're saying correctly, the vowel tones, the note values of the vowels. This is something you came up with. You weren't able to find anything in your research to say that an A is an A, or U is a C. So you had to come up with that yourself.
We have no idea of what musical scale the Proto-Norse people used, or if they used a music scale. We know they had various musical instruments, different types of flutes, different types of stringed instruments, but we don't know how they were tuned. We don't know if they used a 432A or a 440A. We have absolutely no idea what their music sounded like. We can guess, but we have no idea. And all I've got today is, imagine that the ancestors left us a pathway that led to a certain point, and they gave us the choice of looking back at what they did and rebuilding what they did, or saying, hey, learn from what we have done and continue the path on for yourself. And that's the way I look at it now, as I built off of what they had, taking what we have today in the 21st century and saying, how can we combine these and make these effective?
Okay, all right. While you're talking, I'm getting things set up with the next one. Now, so
Great.
we don't have. We know what the Norse language roughly sounds like because we have Icelandic and we have the modern Norse languages. So we have some idea of what the sounds of the letters and words were. But because we don't necessarily have the note values of any of these runes, we have to kind of guess at them. So what was it that? How did you put that together? How did you determine what rune would be what note value specifically? I mean,
that's it. Yeah, I did skip over that one. The key to that one is I'm looking at the different sinusoidal resonance centers in our body, or let's just say different ways that you can intone. If you were to have a single note, say you're just holding an ah, you can resonate it in the upper chambers up here, and it would be more like ah, or lower, and you still hold the same note, it's still ah, ah, yeah, oh. Still the same note, but you're just opening different chambers in the body. And these are resonance centers that are made use of in Tibetan chanting. They use it for Mongolian throat singing. You open up these chambers. And just to see how that worked out, I took the 7 vowel runes from urus at the base, since it has a nice ooh sound to it, moving our way up to like Othala, because it's O, to E, Ah, I, E. So you have this whole range of the 7 vowels placed on the spine from the base to the top of the head, and that gave me the proper order to put them on the keyboard. So like urus at the base of the spine would be C, Othala, let's say the sacral center. O would be a D, moving up to right here in the middle. That's a sacral, but right here where you would find the yellow chakra, you'll have or I'm getting lost, E, and all the way up, so that you have B at the top of your head.
So you use the sound of the rune to determine what its note value was, not necessarily where it's placed in the order of the runes themselves. Is that what you're
Correct.
saying?
It doesn't follow the Futhark order.
Okay.
It's rather the phonetic value of the vowel determines where it fits in the resonance center on the body, as well as where it fits on the keyboard.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Because, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. As a musician, I look at it and say, okay, yeah, you're going to probably go with what sounds correct as opposed to anything else.
It's an art form.
Right. Exactly. So, all right. So we've got this tonal procession of chords, for example. You get a tonal procession of what these runes should, or hopefully may sound like. And so what you're doing is, are you always singing the same rune at the same note value?
Roughly. I've got another layer to this that we're not going to discuss yet because it gets into the more complexities.
Okay.
But I do have a way of determining what the intention of the music is as it correlates to which of the realms of Norse cosmology. And remember, there are 9 realms of Norse cosmology,
Right.
and that helps me to understand what key it's in. So if
Okay.
I'm doing something for thought processes and communication, I'll be in one key. Whereas if I'm doing something for fertility and healing, I'll be in a completely different key. And that'll let me know if I'm starting on C or if I'm starting on G sharp. And then I'll even tinker around with it modally sometimes. And I'll say, I feel like I want to try a harmonic minor for this one song to see how it feels. And then
I was
I'll
curious about whether you were going to use the Greek modes on Norse songs.
Not necessarily, but maybe. If we listen to a lot of the Norwegian and Swedish folk music, it's very modal. It's absolutely very modal. Whether or not they intended it to be part of the Greek modes or not, the music is really strange sounding sometimes because
Yes.
it's so modal.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the intent of what the song is supposed to do is going to determine what key you put it in, and I guess also the mode that you're going to use.
Now, the mode doesn't necessarily correlate to that. The mode is more of a feeling. Like if I want to do something with Helheim, I'm going to avoid a major key.
Right.
Because major keys are bright and cheery and happy to us. I'm going to choose something in a minor key, or heck, I may even go so crazy as to do a Locrian mode because of the dissonance that's involved with that mode.
Well, yeah. In fact, if anybody who's watching wants to try something really interesting, I know that you can find online. In fact, I want to say Metallica did one of their albums. They did a song. The song that everybody's heard on the radio is all minor, but they did another version in major key. It's the same exact song, same exact words, but it is so different because it's in a major key. It's much brighter, I would say happier, mainly because of the lyrics, but it is a very different sounding song simply because it's in a major chord as opposed to a minor chord. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Ronnie James Dio was famous for saying that rock and roll is all minor chords because minor chords scare people.
And KVOD, our local NPR classical station, talks about how most of the symphonies are written in the major keys, and occasionally you'll find a symphony written in the minor key because it is a strong spice used sparingly.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I honestly think that people before this century were kind of afraid of minor chords or minor keys because they did have, with a few exceptions, because they did have that funeral dirge kind of sound to them.
Well, let's put it this way: they were mostly afraid. They were definitely afraid of minor, but the one that they were deathly afraid of, and that's the appropriate word, deathly afraid of, is what we now call the augmented fourth.
Okay.
Or the diminished fifth. It's, imagine if you have the note of C, and you have the note of G, and this makes this nice perfect fifth, the dominant chord, what they called dominus. It was like God's chord. But if you take that G and you drop it down to an F sharp, you get this strong dissonance. A dissonance, by the way, that is used very much in black metal. And if you were caught in the Middle Ages writing a song with this augmented fourth chord, you were put to death because that was considered the devil's chord.
Yeah.
Since you're taking from God's chord the perfect fifth and diminishing it by a half note, it is representative of the fallen angel, and you're composing with devil's music.
Right. And there was a lot of that in the Christian world. Certainly, there was a lot of that. I suspect a lot less of that in the pagan world because if it sounded good, why not? If it didn't sound good, you just didn't perform it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about how you got to what you've got and where you came from. What What was the main purpose in starting this whole project in the first place?
Ah, that's a good question. Along with my studies of esotericism and runes and Norse, I was one of those kids playing music my entire life. I was in piano lessons before I was in school. I was tinkering on the piano and trying to read music. And I had more interest in reading music than I had reading the books. I mean, I read the books, of course, but I was more interested in music. And music has just been a parallel to everything I've been doing my entire life, along with esoteric studies, and it just seemed to be a logical conclusion. It's rune music is something I've tinkered with in different formats over the years, but it wasn't really until I found this vowel placement and how to use the vowels in the song that it really clicked, and that I really started to go gung ho with it. But Galdr and Galdra Craft is really a pairing of everything that I've done for my entire life with rune studies, my esoteric studies, and my music studies. So you are taking advantage, and I'm glad you're taking advantage of all of my years of work and study. It is accumulating into literally a masterwork.
Okay, yeah, and actually, I would go with that. You may have noticed I put the title Rune Master on your name because I absolutely believe
Uh,
that. Um,
Thank you.
and the fact that you are doing, like I tried to say the last show, I don't use the word master very often because in my frame of mind, master in someone who takes something that is already there and makes it their own, and that's certainly something you've done. In fact, wrote
Thank
an
you.
entire book about it. Let's see if I can get this in front of the camera where people can see it. Runes for Transformation is basically how people can take runes and make them their own. And so you've done that with this. You created. You're using the foundation of the runes, and you are then transforming them into a different form than they have been used in for a very long time.
Correct. Yeah, we got into the bad habit since the 1980s of carving these nice little chips out of stone and clay and wood and then using them for divination and thinking that is the entirety of rune work. When I hate to say it, but this may be new for some of you, and some of you are going to be rolling your eyes going, God, he's talking about this again. Runes as divination were invented in the 1980s. There is no substantiation in archaeology or in the literature that runes were ever used as a divinatory tool. However, there is ample evidence that runes were used as magic. There's even more evidence that they were used for written communication. And we know from the literature that runes were a form of music. And in essence, we're kind of in the 21st century reviving a traditional practice of runes. And I really don't do rune divination anymore because tried it. It works. It is a very successful divination practice, and we can talk some other time about what the underlying mechanism is for that one. But I've kind of left that behind. I've left that stage of tinkering, and right now I'm more interested in runes as active tools for transformation.
Well, okay, so let's go to the chat real quick because we got a couple of comments here.
Great.
Cassandra's talking about the chant should be in keeping with the individual. But is there any difference between this and other beliefs? Is this a different? And I'm gonna. She'll correct me if I'm being correct in this. But there are a lot of spiritual paths. You were talking about the monks chanting earlier, where they use sounds and vibration in their spiritual meditations and getting themselves to a different plane of reality. Is there any difference between what you're doing here and what they do, even though it sounds different?
I don't really think so. I've taken a study of some of the Tibetan chants, some of the Hindu mantra. I think kirtan is an amazing form of music, which is basically Hindu chants to music. It is very powerfully transformational. And in the Norse, in the literature, the things that have gone, unfortunately, untranslated into the 21st century by many people are the proper nouns. The names of people and places have gone untranslated. But if you take a step back and you really dig into the translation of these people and places, you find that Norse literature is fraught with references to sound, vibration, and the medium in which those vibrations exist, such as water and air. Even they consider the creation of the universe and the names of the runes are brought into existence by sound. And we do see some very strong similarities in the Vedic traditions and the Tibetan traditions. And there are ample studies out there, scholarly studies, that have found that there is a link to the old Vedic traditions and the old Proto Norse traditions. There is some underlying link, and this link is even hinted at in the Norse literature. So I absolutely think that the intention of the workings that is done through Hindu mantra, Tibetan song, is going to be the same type of intention that we get through Galdra. The primary difference is Hindu will use Sanskrit, a language that, yeah, great, you will understand it if you take the time to study it. And I've spoken to a lot of people who are fluent in Hindu mantra, and I've always had the same complaint is like, I don't really know what Om Triambakam Yajamahe Segundim, I don't understand what all that means. And they say it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you sing it, that you say it. And by doing that, you tap into basically the conscious energies, and you'll still experience a transformation. And while that's true, it still never left me satisfied. And as an English speaker and people who have a native language from one of the Germanic languages, like German, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, these languages, that Galdr does the same thing for these Germanic languages that Sanskrit and Hindu mantra does for the people who speak those languages, because the root of our language is runes. I've once helped people to translate the Yelling Stone, which comes from Denmark. And if you really look at the Old Norse language, the words like mother, father, brother, sister exist in practically the same exact written form and the exact same spoken form for over 2,000 years. And so Galdr and runes as a spoken, as a sung form of spiritual work is absolutely native, is absolutely inherent to people who are born into speaking any of the Germanic languages.
Okay. And I think that might actually answer the second question Cassandra had about the mathematics that you're following as opposed to other beliefs. The other question is do you incorporate oh, okay. I'm sorry. She said she was agreeing with what you say, and she said many do not even incorporate dance or music at all in their spiritual beliefs, which is true. Um,
We are Norse. We are stoic, and we are strong. We don't dance. We don't sing. We're strong.
Okay. I think that's what we call in the gaming world a kappa. So, all right. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and we're going to do the second song. You pronounce it better than I do. Elifi Salu?
Elilif Salu. Before we go into it, let's talk about what it is.
Right.
These are a couple of words found in runestones and in the literature. And real quick, so we can experience it, we can talk a bit more afterwards. Elilif is a word that basically means old age elixir, or it is the magic power of immortality. This is the substance that is in the golden apples of Vithun, which the gods eat to keep themselves young and vital. And Salu is a pairing of the word Alu, which is like Om in the Hindu mantra, the Tibetan mantra, like Om. Well, Norse, we have it as Alu, and it is that manifestation. It is that bringing into existence. And there's a Norse word Sal, S-A-L, pronounced soul, which literally means soul. It's the same exact word we have in English. But if you put them together, Sal and Alu, it is a word found on rune stones. And in essence, pairing those words together, it means rune magic or soul magic. So Elilif Salu is soul magic for eternal life.
Okay, soul magic for eternal life. So we're gonna go ahead and listen to this, and we'll see what people think about it.
Excellent.
I think we're picking up echoes. That's what that is. I'm going, I think that's quick. So, all right. Soul magic. And we had some questions on the chat while that was going on, and a couple of things did you have to train your voice to do that?
No, I wouldn't say I trained it. For a number of years, I thought I had, well, I still can do the death grunt voice, the cookie monster that you find in a lot of the Viking music.
Right.
I can do that for sure. But it took me a bit of time to find this voice. It was there. It was always there. Like when I do voiceover work, I could hear it, so I knew it had to be here. And it was just a matter of toning, finding out where in my body I'm feeling those resonants, and then really working through to get those resonants to go through, like ooh and oh, finding that and really having those come through, and then matching the notes so that I was singing in tune. And it took me a little bit to find it, but when it finally came out, I was really pleased with it.
Absolutely. All right, so I put the link up for both your website where they can get the music along with the discount code.
Great.
I don't remember what the discount was, how much the discount was. Do you?
Well, let me do this for the discount. It's 20% for the discount. But to be sure that you use it, the interface is just a little bit wonky. So what you want to do is when you go to order the music from that link, you put in the dollar amount that you want to pay, $7 for the album. Then you put in the discount code and apply the code. I've tinkered with this, and if you put the code in first and then a dollar amount, it won't apply. So you want to do the dollar amount first, then the discount code apply, and then you can go onto the checkout cart. But it'll give you 20% off. So you put $7 in, you get a couple bucks off. If you put $200 in, you get $40 off.
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead and tinker with it. I hope you enjoy the music when you try it.
Well, and because you gave me a link so I can get these songs for tonight. I've been listening to them, and it really is. There's a certain frame of mind that you either have to be in or that the music puts you in so that you understand it and really enjoy it. And this puts you into that mood where, whether it's a meditative state or what, where you can actually listen to it and just relax and let it flow through you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do with this, is that this is in essence your own rune ritual. And I'm going to put together a little video to explain how you can build playlists to create your own rune ritual based on the Galdra work. But it's absolutely designed to zonk you out into an alternate state of consciousness so that you can be open to the energies working and to the elevation of energies. A song that's not on this album, but a song that I recently wrote so that I could have a live ritual done with it. As I was listening to it in my chair at my workstation, listening to the song, next thing I know, I'm trying to fight to keep myself in the chair because it zonked me out so hard. And even when I had folks gather at a ritual, I said, normally we stand up for bloat, but for this one, please sit down because I don't want anyone falling over.
Don't fall down, sit down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you will definitely experience some mind-altering states with this stuff. It's intended to be that way, and I would say definitely let yourself be open to experiencing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So don't drive or anything while you're listening to this.
Yeah, probably not a good idea to put your MP3 player in your car while you and listen to it while you're driving. And I think that is I'm trying to come up with the word. That's something that all sacred music has. It puts you into a state, an altered state, and the best kinds of this music put you into that state, into a specific state based on what the music is supposed to do for you, so that you can then accept or let things happen the way they're supposed to. And I find that's how I feel when I listen to this. Is it opens up, whether it's the psychic centers, the spiritual centers, whatever. It opens things up so that I am more